You can't control everything in life, but you can control your money. To have a better lifestyle, you don't actually need to earn more money. You just need to use the money that you earn in a better way. Now, they're not my words, but they're the words of my guest in today's podcast, Angela Santalia, who's written a new Money Messenger book. And today you'll hear her thoughts on how you can control your money and live the life that you want. Now, while many people listen to this podcast because they're interested in property investment, in my mind, money management's a critical part of any type of investing, and especially real estate investing. You need good money management to save your first deposit. And once you own a property or two, money management's even more important. I see many investors getting into property because they want more cash flow, but because they haven't learned the money management and cash flow management skills before taking on financial commitments, a loan for their home or their property investment, taking on that extra debt creates even more stress and strain, and I guess that's one of the reasons up to 50% of first-time property investors sell up. But money problems are endemic in Australia. I recently read a report from the Australian Bureau of Statistics that showed that in May this year, 5.4% of Australian households couldn't get $500 cash in a week. It's in fact incredibly concerning that more than 1 in 6 households couldn't raise $2,000 for an emergency. And even if you don't have any money problems today, I think you're going to enjoy my chat with Angela in this show because she's going to share some financial strategies to become wealthier by making your money work for you. And of course, I'm going to share my regular mindset message with you. So welcome to today's show.
Welcome to the Michael Yardney podcast, where twice each week you will learn a number of new ideas regarding success, property investment and money in around 30 minutes. Our show is brought to you by Metropole, who specialise in helping you grow, protect and pass on your wealth through strategic property and wealth advice. Now here's your host, Michael Yardney, Australia's authority in wealth creation through property, who has been voted one of Australia's top 50 most influential thought leaders.
Navigating the world of personal finance can be overwhelming, yet with some smart planning, a good strategy and understanding the basics, you should be able to develop the money management skills you need to get your finances under control. And that's what I'm going to be discussing in today's show with the Money Messenger, Angela Santalia. Welcome, Angela.
Thank you, Michael. It's great to be here.
Now, Angela, the COVID-19 pandemic impacted just about every Australian, apart from the health issues. And in general, there weren't that many of those. Australians' households, though, just seemed to get richer. Despite living through the first recession in almost 3 decades, household wealth in the year to March this year increased by 15.3%. That was the fastest rate of growth since the mining construction boom over 2 decades ago. In fact, the average Australian's wealth grew more in the last year than it did during the preceding 3 years combined. But it seems like the rich keep getting richer. And many Australians are still, unfortunately, having difficulty coping financially. I know many are living 1 to 2 weeks away from being broke, some only managing to stay afloat by raiding their super last year or putting a pause on their debt. It's just another example, as I say, of the rich getting richer. And they did so because they understood the way of money. They understood how finance works. Now, I know one of the aims of my podcast, my blogs, is to get more Australians financially fluent and control their finances. So I'm really looking forward to our chat. First of all, congratulations on the publication of your new book, The Money Messenger.
Thank you. Thank you. It's very exciting times.
Now, before we get into the message you'd like to share with Australians in your new book, I'd like to find out a little bit more about you. I guess if we're going to listen to somebody giving us advice on anything in life, but particularly with regard to money, we really should know a little bit about them. So please tell us a little bit about your journey.
Sure, no problems. It's very important that you know who you're listening to and you trust what they're saying. So my working career has always been in financial planning here in Australia. I've got over 2 decades working in the Australian financial planning industry as a financial paraplanning strategist. My clients are other financial planners. I help them to write the financial plans and create the strategies for their clients. So through that, I've learned a lot about money, people, and their spending habits. I've seen what works and what doesn't. I also run a website on the side called The Money Messenger, which features a blog, resources, tools, YouTube videos, and more, where I share my knowledge with the public. And I was also Young Investor of the Year, runner-up in 2017 for your Investment Property magazine.
Well, that was a while ago. And I think out of transparency, we should also say that you're a client of Metropole and you used Metropole to help you buy an investment property. Are you willing to share where that was and how it's gone?
Yes, definitely. So we just bought, I think it was March last year, we bought a property through Metropole in Holland Park in Queensland, in Brisbane, in the metro region there, and it's done amazing over the last year. It probably settled a week or two after, COVID really struck Australia, and, funny times we were thinking to buy another property, but it's done awesome over the last year and a bit.
Sure. So again, some people have done well and others haven't. Now, you told me about the money messenger, or you started to mention it. Tell me about it. What is the money messenger?
Michael, money is a huge part of life, like you mentioned, and I think it's so important, but unfortunately it's not really taught a lot in schools, often not taught at home. So I started the Money Messenger project to get young Australians talking about money, to educate them and empower them to take control of their finances, get out of debt, and use their income in better ways to create the life they want. So I'm sharing my financial planning knowledge with people and my own investment experience. But the kicker is everything you learn from me as the money messenger, I also use in my own life. I practice what I preach. And that's what's allowed me to avoid personal debt, travel the world, and even build a sizable property portfolio starting from zero.
Well, I think that's really important because there's so many people out there giving advice, but it's so easy to set up a website, do a blog, do a podcast. And there's a whole lot of pretenders, a whole lot of young, new people out there. And while they've got the best intention, I wouldn't want to be listening to an enthusiastic amateur. I really would like to be getting my lessons in whatever it is. And I still have mentors in my life and coaches in my life, but I want it from people who've actually done that. Now, I believe you think it's important for young people to learn about money. Why is that?
Absolutely. It's super important because what you do in your 20s and 30s with money can ultimately lead into your 40s and 50s. And money mistakes can follow you around for years. Often, in my experience, I see that people don't go and see a financial planner until later in life, when they're in the middle of their life or they're getting closer to retirement. And that means a lot of years after leaving school, starting a career, to be confused about money, miss opportunities, waste money, and sometimes make a real mess of things. So the earlier you can get started with organising your money properly, the better, and it can save yourself years of heartache. But it's never too late, of course. The important thing is that people do get started though and really focus on money, because when they do, life becomes simpler, it becomes easier, and you don't need to rely on personal debt, which means more money for you and your lifestyle.
I like that idea. Of course, you know that I've written a book, not as much about money, but rich habits, poor habits. And we interestingly share the same publisher, because I also believe that we pick up money habits, rich habits, financial habits, or poor money habits from our parents. As a child, you learn things you hear, things you see, things you experience about money as a child. And it's not always things you hear, sometimes things you don't hear, because a lot of families don't even talk about money, do they?
No, they don't. That's exactly why I started the Money Messenger, just to get people comfortable with talking about money and to get it out in the open and share stories and successes and also share failures so that other people can avoid them.
Well, we all have mentors in our life, and including money mentors. And for most people, your mentors are your parents. Again, you've seen them, you see how they do things. I often tell the story about my father's financial plan. He used to sit every Saturday morning at the kitchen table, smoking his cigarettes and drinking black coffee. I can picture it in my mind's eye as I say it. And he was writing down numbers on a bit of paper. And I once asked him, what are you doing? And he was planning what he was going to do when he won the lottery. There were lottery tickets you got then called Tats in Victoria, before Tats Lotto, before the Lotto. And he'd buy tickets every weekend because that was the only way he could see he could get out of the rat race. Now, he won occasional small amounts of money, never a big prize, just enough to keep him in it. I don't think he ever learned that the lottery is for people who can't do maths. It's a tax for people who can't do maths, I guess, in some ways. But people don't hear how to handle money from their parents, do they?
No, often not, because quite often a lot of people's parents, they're not quite sure how to manage money either. They're just trying to do the best that they can and make ends meet. Some people have better upbringings financially and some people don't. But at the end of the day, you can go and find the information you need if you're not getting it from home. It's just important that you're getting the right information, of course.
Well, I think that's a really good point, because today you can find the information much easier than when I was young, and even when you were young many years ago. There's podcasts, there's blogs, there's YouTube videos, so people can get it. Why do you think that in Australia, where I just mentioned a while ago that we're amongst the wealthiest people in the world on a number of different measures, so many young people are still having trouble with money?
I think money is different now compared to when our parents were, leaving school and starting their lives. It's, our parents, they left school, started a family, bought a house, and they just got on with things. But life is really different now. You've got different job roles, different life roles, double income households, contract work, bigger HECS debts, side hustles, things like that. Plus, there's a lot of young people as well that are living more independent lives. They're not getting married, or they're starting families later, or not at all. So I find that young people want more freedom. They want choice. They want flexibility. They don't necessarily want to do it the way that they saw their parents doing it back in the day. And you've also got other things like internet marketing and social media and influencers. It's like we're living in a giant magazine these days, bombarding us to buy and instant gratification. And, that's led to things like Afterpay and Zip Pay and easy money. And that stuff wasn't around. I remember my parents raising me, my mum, don't owe money to anyone for anything. It was something to be avoided at all costs. But these days I'm seeing more and more young people, they are not scared of taking on personal debt. They've got massive amounts of credit card, plus HECS, plus car loans, and they're in so much financial stress and they don't know what to do to get out of it.
I think it's too easy to get debt nowadays, and that concept of delayed gratification has been forgotten by a lot of people. They're in too much of a hurry. And I think you made a good point with social media. You see people's highlight reels. You see all the good things. You don't see all the bits on the cutting room floor like they talk about in the movies, where all the things that have gone wrong, or the debt behind it, or the stress behind it. I've heard that financial stress creates a lot of relationship breakups in young people.
Yeah, definitely. You've got people, if you've got someone else in the household, it's really important that you're transparent with each other's finances, and you've got to talk about these sorts of things, because if one person's really great with money, but the other one's spending all the money, you're just going to go around and around in circles. So whether you're single or as a couple, you need to pay attention to money.
Well, you've recently written a book about this, and it's actually called The Money Messenger as well, same as your podcast, your blog. So tell me a little bit about the book, please.
Yes, thank you, Michael. It's published by Wilkinson's Publishing and it's now available. I wrote this book because I saw that there's a big problem in Australia with lack of financial knowledge, especially amongst younger people. A lot of people know that they should be doing something with money. They want to start investing, buy property, but they're not sure how to do it. So the book is especially for people that are navigating through their 20s and 30s and want to make better financial decisions. But I find it's also really popular with people in their 40s even who wish they had this book in their 20s. So the book will help people to use their income in the best way to avoid the common pitfalls of money mismanagement and personal debt traps. It's full of my financial planning secrets that I use in my own day-to-day life, but ones that I've also got my friends and family to use over the years. All those secrets that I've shared with them and that they've had good successes with. I want everyone to know this stuff. That's why I wrote the book.
Now, I've often been funny about the word secret because people say, oh, there's no secrets. But the fact is that most Australians don't know that. So while they're not hidden behind locked doors, if you don't know it, I guess in some ways it is a secret to you, isn't it?
Yes, 100%. You don't know what you don't know. And I used to think for years that everybody knows this stuff. But then I would mention something to, a younger sister-in-law or brother-in-law, and their responses really shocked me. And that's when I realized that they don't know this stuff. Why would they? Nobody's taught them. They don't work in financial planning.
Now, you've written the book, but there's lots of books about money on the shelf on Amazon. So why your book? Why is it different? Why should somebody go out and get it?
My book will teach you how to organize your own money so that you get financially fierce. It proves that you can get wealthier simply by using your income smarter. And it shows you how all the different areas of money work together rather than just focusing on budgeting or just focusing on investing. I found that there's a lot of other money books out there that are generalized and they kind of leave a lot of questions unanswered. It's one thing to try and manage your cash flow by setting up different bank accounts, but it's another to know why you have those bank accounts and to always make sure you have money in those bank accounts. So the Money Messenger book is a one-stop guide. It tells you exactly what to do with your day-to-day finances, how to save more, start investing, and avoid costly mistakes. I show you exactly what to do, how to do it, and why to do it. I took all the guesswork out of money. Plus, it exposes some truths about personal debt, credit cards, rubbish insurances, and other things that I don't think financial institutions want you to know necessarily. But there's also a lot of real life case studies in there of my friends and families, and it shows the strategies in play from all different walks of life and the successes they've had in it, plus a step-by-step plan at the end to really get you started.
Well, let's give people a bit of a hint as well. So let's educate them by listening to today's podcast. You said a number of bank accounts. Do we really need more than one?
Yes, absolutely. I was quite surprised to learn that a lot of people still only have one bank account or two bank accounts. You definitely need more than one bank account. It's really important to break up your cash flow into short-term, medium-term, long-term. That will help you to save for day-to-day stuff that you want, but also survive emergencies, but also to start saving for those longer-term goals, such as a property deposit.
So why in different bank accounts, Angela?
I believe in pushing your money out into different bank accounts and away from eyesight. I believe in doing what needs to be done first so that whatever's left over, that's yours to blow as you please. And it's worked well for me. So different bank accounts means different money goes to different places for different purposes. But that doesn't mean having numerous bank accounts, 10 of them, and not knowing what's going on and where and why you've got them, which I do see sometimes. People in financial planning, they come to us and they've got multiple bank accounts set up, but they don't know what money is going into each one, and they just get all confused and all messy. So it has to be done structured and really efficiently, and only a few different bank accounts are needed, not a lot.
So what you're really saying is pay yourself first. In other words, you put the money into the account automatically, not you doing it because you're not going to get around to it. And then what you're left with, you can spend, but you're not allowed to touch those accounts if it's for saving for a particular purpose. You can't pinch from one to put in another. Would that be fair?
Definitely. Paying yourself first is the most amazing thing I've ever learned in my life. And when I share it with other people who've not heard about it, it changes their life every single time they implement it. Pay yourself first, look after yourself first, pay what needs to be done, bills and expenses, and then blow the rest as you like.
If you're at the next stage of your life and you've already got some debt, whether it's a home loan or an investment loan, what are your thoughts about offset accounts?
100%. I really like offset accounts. If you've got some debt like your personal loan, definitely I would always have an offset account attached to that. The interest you save by having money in that offset account, that percentage return, that's going to far outweigh any interest you're going to get paid from another high interest savings account, for example. So if you've got a mortgage, definitely have an offset account attached to it. And if you've got a home or an investment, have it attached to your home loan.
Because? I know the answer, Angela, of course, but I want people to understand the reason why.
Definitely. Have it attached to your home, your principal place of residence, because that loan that's attached to that property, the interest is not tax deductible. So you want to minimize how much interest you pay on your own home.
So the answer really is if you put money in a term deposit or some sort of savings thing, you may get 1 or 2%. You probably wouldn't even get that today. But if you actually put it in your offset account, you can always redraw it. You don't have to ask the bank for permission. But what that does is any money that's there offsets any other money, same amount as a mortgage. So you pay a little bit less on your mortgage costs. So you put the money there and then clear it. What about credit cards? How do you feel about young people having credit cards?
Look, I've had one forever in my whole entire life. But the thing is, I've always paid it back on time and I've never blown it out that I can never pay it back. I think there's a big difference now where people don't realize the importance of paying it off. So if you're keeping on track with your expenditure and you know what you're sort of spending each month, no big surprises, credit cards can be really useful and fine, and they can, really add some flexibility to your life. But the problem is if people have credit cards and they're not paying it back in full each month, they get really unstuck really quickly and it just spirals out there. And I've realized that people don't understand the gravity that can cause for them.
And the main reason is because the interest rate is very high. So while people hear interest rates are 1 or 2, maybe 3%, boy, it's very different for credit cards, isn't it?
That's right. It gets into the 20-somethings actually with interest rates. Yes.
Sometimes, yes, definitely. Okay, some people say, I don't want to read your book because it's going to tell me to budget. And that's a dirty word to people, isn't it?
Yes, Budgets are not fun, I suppose, when you think of them in the normal sense. However, everybody needs a budget of some sort, but a budget doesn't just have to be something that tells you how much to spend always and never allows you any fun in your life. It's actually the opposite. You're telling your own money where it needs to go. You're designing your lifestyle the way that you want it to be. And it also then helps you to have the money you need to be able to spend as you like. It's all about just knowing what you've got to play with, where it needs to go, so that you can have your cake and eat it too. We're only here once. I don't believe in missing out. I don't think budgeting is about missing out. It's about actually giving yourself more to play with, whether it's lifestyle or putting it towards things you really want, like property investments.
Angela, I know your book is mainly aimed at millennials, but as you said, if you're not comfortable with your money habits at the moment, it's good for any age group. What are some of the complaints that you're getting, money complaints you're getting from millennials?
Well, the number one is just simply, I can't save. That's the biggest ultimate complaint, I think, from a lot of people, but especially from younger people, I'm finding. But what that often means is that they don't know how to save correctly. Often they try and spend first, save whatever's left over. But as we spoke about before, that doesn't work. You need to do it the other way around. You need to save first, pay yourself first, and then spend second.
Now, isn't that where budgeting comes into a degree? Because I'm fascinated by some of the younger people that work at our office at Metropole. And what they do is, while we have an espresso machine for our staff where they can get their coffees for free, they go downstairs to the restaurant and pay $4.50 twice a day. Some of them are buying cigarettes, and I got no idea what that costs, but it's a lot nowadays. And they really don't know where their money's gone at the end of the week or the month. In fact, the money doesn't last till the next pay period.
Yeah, that's right. And you know what? I can guarantee that they've probably never tracked their expenses, even just for a month. If you don't know where it's going, then you can't make changes. But all these little, $4.50 here and there for coffee, it really adds up.
So you said one of the big complaints is I can't save. And part of the reason you can't save is because you've got no idea where your money's going. And that's one of the reasons I like your suggestion of automatically putting money into those bank accounts before you have anything left over. But that's what the tax man does. They actually take your tax out each week, each pay period, because they know you're not going to have the money at the end of the year if they leave it to you. What other complaints, money issues do you find people have?
Well, it all stems from I can't save, really, but property investment. How many younger people complain about the cost of properties and that they're rising? But I get talking to people about, well, what deposit do you have so far? How are you going with that? And they often don't have any deposit, or, they've got $1,000 saved up. And I think to myself, don't worry about the price of the property if you're not even working towards saving the deposit. It actually doesn't matter how much you earn, it's what you do with it. But if you can't save a small amount each week, for your lifestyle, you can't then build on that for investments and saving for a property deposit. Everything's possible, but you need to start from the beginning.
Now, it's really interesting to say it doesn't matter how much you earn, because some people would say property investment is for those rich people. But I recently had somebody in my mentorship program, a nice gentleman who's got 5 investment properties in really good suburbs in Melbourne. He's also got 3 kids, and he's earning $100,000 a year. Now, that's actually a lot for some people, but overall, it's not a lot for a family joint income. Yet he's just turned 50, and by saving, he's got his own home, plus 5 good investment properties. So it is still possible if you have financial discipline.
Absolutely. This is where the Money Messenger came from originally. When I first started working in financial planning, I was not earning a lot of money at all. But what I was able to achieve with that small few $100s a week salary was able to put a little bit away and grow a sizable property deposit after about 5 years, which then I used to get into my first property, which then that increased, and the equity I took out for the next one. So I know exactly what you mean with this, gentleman. You don't need to earn a lot. Actually, if you get better at managing a small amount, then as your income grows over time, which most people will, you'll just be doing amazing things by the time you earn more money.
See, I find a lot of people come to us to invest in property because they need more cash. But if they take on a debt to get a property and they haven't got their cash flow management sorted out beforehand, that's only going to get them into more trouble, isn't it?
Absolutely. I know what millennial life is like and that we all want everything now, but you need to watch out for things like Afterpay and personal loans for holidays and credit cards, all that stuff that you end up paying back for past decisions. It can really shoot yourself in the foot because it takes years sometimes to clean that all up. So by the time you get around doing that, you've then missed years that you could have been doing things that are more worthwhile.
Now, I see this every time there's a boom, there's a new cycle. There's a whole group of young people, new people who come into this. Some have had challenges financially over the pandemic period a while ago, but they're turning to the share market because I heard the Australian share market has reached a new peak. It finished last financial year at a new peak. Or cryptocurrency. That's it. You don't understand, Michael. You're an old fuddy-duddy. You don't understand how cryptocurrency is the new currency of the future. What do you make of all that?
I think in Australia, we've had it good for many years and a lot has changed recently. People have seen how volatile life can be and how dangerous it can be if you don't have any emergency savings and that you're relying on your paycheck from week to week. You know, what if JobKeeper wasn't around? What if JobSeeker wasn't around? Accessing super was offered by the government, as you mentioned earlier, which I just think that was such short-term thinking and it will have long-term effects because a lot of people ripped out money from their retirement fund during a market downturn. But the problem is when people struggle with money is because they don't have a plan for their money. You've got to have a plan for your money that includes emergencies, money for emergencies, because they will happen again in the future. Plus, you've also got to have some longer term investments to really grow your security. But you mentioned crypto before, and whilst it may be the way of the future, and there's nothing wrong with having a little bit of crypto as part of your portfolio, it shouldn't be the bulk of your portfolio, and you should only be dabbling in those once you've got your foundations right, once you've got your emergency savings done, once you've got some quality long-term investments, your shares, your properties under the way. Then if you want to have some in crypto, go for gold afterwards.
Angela, I see it as speculative and a bit like my dad sitting there hoping his lottery tickets would get him out of the rat race. It didn't work for him. But speaking with you, having this chat, I can see you're passionate. You're passionate about investing. Why? Why is it important to you?
I am. I think now more than ever, we need to be conscious of our money and really have a plan of attack for our future. And without investing, you're never going to have more money than what you can save up in a week. The cost of goods and services are going up each week. You know, bread costs more now than it did a year ago. So you can't just leave your money in the bank earning nothing interest. You'll actually go financially backwards. When you invest, it gives you security and choices and freedom. And I think it's the ultimate life backup plan, knowing that if something happens to your work, you'll be okay. The choice, when you want to work, how much you want to work, if you want to retire early, and the freedom to design your life the way you want it to be instead of just letting life happen to you. I'm a really big believer in controlling money and living life as you want it. A big part of that, though, means that you have to invest so your money is worth more tomorrow than it is today.
Sure, if your money is not working for you when you're asleep, you'll never get rich, and you can't get rich by saving. You'll never save your way to wealth. Now, a lot of young people got into the property market over the last year or so because of first homeowner grant, stamp duty savings. There were a lot of incentives, home builder, and that was great. But a lot of those are now removed, and more young people are considering the concept of rent vesting because they can't afford to buy where they want to live in the big capital cities, particularly Melbourne and Sydney. What do you think of that?
Michael, I think there's a growing shift around property ownership with young adults and millennials, Gen Z. They don't necessarily want to be tied down to a home of their own. They don't know where they want to live long term and they want to try different things. So rent investing is a strategy that's getting really popular. And what it means is that you rent where you want to live on purpose so that you have the lifestyle you want, you live in the suburb you want, the type of property you want, which can be cheaper than owning that same property. Then you buy an investment property or properties somewhere else. That might be a more affordable location or a better location, investment grade, as you call it, Michael. That's usually more financially lucrative than buying a home to live in because all the expenses that relate to the investment property are tax deductible, the interest, the maintenance, the repairs, whatnot, whereas they're not when they're related to your own home. So this can be a really advantageous strategy. It can provide a lot more freedom in life when it comes to property ownership. You can get the best of both worlds, the lifestyle and create wealth. And it's a strategy that I've used myself for years, and I know that it works, and it's also fun. It's given me the flexibility to travel, live interstate, live overseas, whilst knowing that my investment properties are back home waiting for me and doing their job. So in the Money Messenger book, I've shown exactly how rent investing works, how it's very possible to buy multiple properties over time, starting from zero. I've done the figures for you, and I've shown you exactly the strategy of how I was able to do it. Actually, Michael, all of the strategies in the Money Messenger book are simple to understand, easy to implement to achieve financial independence in a busy world. I want everyone to have financial success regardless of their ages or their income.
Well, one of the aims behind my podcast is to make more Australians what I call financially fluent. And to be fair, I'm tending to already talk to people who are at the level of some financial knowledge. So I love the concept of your book, The Money Messenger, to help some who are needing to get up to that level. How can people find out about your book? Where can they get it?
Thanks, Michael. The Money Messenger book is now available at leading bookstores and online. For more details, people can follow me on all the socials or just head to moneymessenger.com.au.
And of course, I'll leave a link in the show notes to make it easy for people to find. Angela, I've had fun with our chat today. I look forward to catching up with you again, and I've subscribed to your blog as well, so look forward to getting your messages. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Michael. It's been great. Appreciate it.
In a moment, I'm going to share my mindset message with you. And I've got a serious message to tell you. The world doesn't owe you anything. But before I get onto that, just following on my chat with Angela, I wanted to remind you, of course, that if you're listening to this podcast because you want to become more financially independent, money management's important. So a lot of people go off and just buy a property or hire a buyer's agent or go to a property strategist. But our approach at Metropole is a more holistic approach. We realise that attaining wealth doesn't just happen. It's the result of a well-executed plan. Planning is bringing your future into the present so you can do something about it now. And it doesn't just mean budgeting, but money management is important. So if you're serious about taking advantage of this property cycle that we're well into now, whether you're a beginner looking for a time-tested property investment strategy or an established investor who's stuck, or maybe you aren't stuck and want to get to the next level, or maybe you're just wanting a second opinion on your situation, why not go to metropole.com.au and find out a bit about what we do so that you can use us to help. Well, I was going to say level the playing field, but it's more than that. It's actually giving you an unfair advantage by getting holistic advice from my award-winning team. Go to metropole.com.au, find out what we do, leave us your details, and I'd love to be part of your ongoing wealth creation journey.
Now here's Michael's mindset message. Remember, a change in your thinking will lead to a change in your life.
As I get older and wiser, I think there's a real problem going on in the world at the moment. I feel so many people walk around with a general sense of entitlement, and it's damaging to them. Look, the truth may hurt, but the world doesn't owe you anything. Now, I know it may sound harsh, but accepting that truth is essential in maximising your personal development and your financial situation. So that's right. Life doesn't owe you anything. It doesn't owe you perfect or even good parents. Life doesn't owe you health, happiness, abundance, success, comfort, or immunity from pain and problems. Life doesn't owe you a job, a house, a bed, or a single meal. No one really owes you kindness, love, recognition, empathy, apologies, or understanding. You're not entitled to a single thing. Look, even your family owes you nothing. Your government owes you nothing. No one owes you anything at all. And the sooner you take responsibility for yourself and stop relying on others, like the government, like your employers, to take care of you, the sooner you take control of your own financial future. Now, depending on your background and your perspective, this concept might sound scary to you. Now, I'll tell you, it's not nearly as scary as hoping your employer's going to show you the loyalty that you think you deserve when the market changes and they don't have enough work for you. Or your employer's going to pay you what you think you're worth when business is good. No, there's no security there. One of the most powerful things that will happen when you accept that no one's going to take care of you financially or in any other way is that you become more motivated to do something. You begin to look more closely at your financial situation. You look at your budget, you look at what you earn, how much you spend, how much tax you pay, you look at your expenses, and then you take responsibility. Now, I'm not sure what's causing all this new sense of entitlement, but I think it's partly due to the cushy way in which children have been raised over the last few decades. Now, call me old and old-fashioned, but children get trophies for just showing up, lest we hurt anyone's feelings by admitting that another child is better than theirs. Children aren't allowed to fail. We can't separate the intelligent from the unintelligent. We're forced to make every person fit into the same mould of life. Now, we know the world's got a bullying problem, but it can't be solved in playground brawls anymore, and the immense immersion of political correctness when we speak and when we engage with others has diminished our chance of honest communication. Now, of course, there's others, people who've been born into family with means, and those people are going to spoil them rotten by rewarding them for simply existing. These kids are going to grow up hearing that they can go to the best schools, they can get the latest smartphones, they get the best clothes, whatever they deserve, even when they've done nothing to deserve it. They're going to hear all their life and in their teenage years that they're truly remarkable, unique and special. Kids who grew up believing that they were absolutely unique in the world just for being able to stand upright, to shower, to eat, to breathe, very often are going to have a rude and brutal awakening when they get their first job. When they get there, they're not going to be praised by their boss for coming to work in the morning. It will not be okay for them to come 15 minutes late or take longer lunch breaks that last half an hour, longer than they should be. They're going to be criticised for making mistakes. They're not going to be praised for trying if they fail. Only succeeding is going to be good enough. They're soon going to discover they're not really special, they're not really wonderful at all, and that they've got co-workers who are their superiors in just about every way. Now, many people are going to adapt to this and apply themselves to the harsh reality of lives. They're going to grow up, they're going to mature. But unfortunately, others will not. They're going to go through life believing what their parents told them. And they're going to blame others when they fail in their relationships, when they're fired from a job, or the next one or the next one. The saying, the world doesn't owe you anything, is another way of saying that you have to contribute before you earn the right to receive contributions. Now, let me give you a couple of examples. Your boss doesn't owe you a promotion, not unless you've worked harder or you've become more qualified or you've deserved it more than others considered for the same position. Your neighbours don't owe you respect unless you act in a way that shows you deserve that respect. Confidence and trust are earned by you, not owed to you. Things like these are what all this saying is about, that your life doesn't owe you anything. In many ways, many people today are living the life of victims. They're giving up their rights to choose, to succeed, and to create their own destiny by sitting back and waiting for scrappy handouts that are left to them. And then, with audacity, these same people feel they've got the right to complain with what they've been given. The problem of entitlement is not one that's going to go away soon. The truth is that people need to realise that the world doesn't owe them anything. We're the ones who owe the world something. We owe the world our talent. We owe the world our skills. We owe the world our ability to take care of our planet. We owe the world the efforts to make the planet happier, a safer place. And until each and every person can get together and realise that within each of us, big and small, black or white, male or female, rich or poor, lies the responsibility to the world, until we realise that, things are going to get worse. But there's good news in all this. In all truth, there lies a treasure. The gift in acknowledging and accepting that the world owes you nothing is that you suddenly realise that every single thing you have is a blessing. Life owes you nothing. And yet, look what you've been given. Be grateful for what you've got. You'll be truly wealthy when you suddenly become grateful. Remember what I've often said in these mindset moments, you can't really be wealthy without gratitude. So be grateful for the people who love you. Be grateful for the pets who adore you. Be grateful for the bed you sleep in and the shoes you walk in. You know, there are plenty of people in this world who wish your worst days would be their best days. So think about it. Your life is overflowing with treasures, and there's not enough time in the day to count them all. But please make sure every day that you do count at least 5 or 10 of your treasures, and then show gratitude for them. Remember them, be grateful for them, and recognize that your cup's not half empty. It's overflowing, and you're entitled to have anything inside it you want. I hope you learned something from my chat with Angela today, and if you got some benefit, and particularly if you know somebody who'd get some benefit with better money management, tell them about the Michael Yardney podcast, or of course you can tell the world by leaving a review wherever you listen to this podcast. I'd really appreciate it. If you want to catch me between these twice weekly podcasts, just look for me on social media, just look for Michael Yardney, or join my private Facebook group. Go to Facebook and look for the Property Update Facebook group, where you're going to get daily tips, charts, strategies, some tidbits from me each day that I don't share elsewhere. I'll be back again real soon. In the meantime, have a great week. Make it a great week.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Michael Yardney podcast, which was brought to you by Metropole, who help their clients grow, protect, and pass on their wealth through strategic property and wealth advice. If you like what you heard and don't already subscribe, you'll find us on iTunes or on your favourite Android app as the Michael Yardney podcast. Watch out for our next show, which comes to you twice a week, and you'll learn some new ideas about property investment, success, and money in around 30 minutes. To get more of Michael's thoughts, go across to www.propertyupdate.com.au and sign up for his daily morning briefing, and you'll hear from not only Michael but a group of leading property success and money experts. And just a reminder that the information you heard in this show today is general educational advice and not specific investment advice, as we don't know your personal circumstances. If you're looking for specific advice, why not ask the team at Metropole to help you?